All right, I believe our live stream should be up now here for just about everybody. Let's see where we're at with regard to live stream going up now. https://livestream.1degreeoutside.com. Great. Okay, publish that. Wonderful, and we'll go ahead and see if we can get the alert out here. This is for Shutesbury, Massachusetts. You have a tornado warning that's been issued. Shutesbury, Massachusetts. Tornado warning is out. North end of the Quabbin Reservoir is going to be into this tornado warning as well. Just putting out that the live stream is up. Live stream is up. And we'll put in the URL here, which is https://livestream.1degreeoutside.com. And we'll put out a little push notification, tornado warning near the Quabbin. Live stream up here. Okay, great. And we'll go ahead and we'll put that out right now. Super duper. All right, so for those of you that are joining us, good to be with you here. Let's see, tornado warning. All right, publish that. There we go. Okay, so if you're just joining us, you can see behind me what we've got right now. We do have a tornado warning that's out for the Shutesbury area. This is for the northern end of the Quabbin Reservoir. This is where I can switch you back over to the radar and you can see what's happening. There is the storm itself as it comes in on Shutesbury. It's been showing signs of rotation. The signs of rotation were there not only for one scan but for two scans. And the reason that that's a problem is because what we've been seeing is with a number of these storms, we've been seeing the storm spin up just for about 60 seconds. And each scan comes in every 60 seconds or so. So what we're talking about right now is one that's been able to last for 2 minutes. These have been very short-lived, but when they spin up, the problem is that they can easily and quickly drop a tornado. I'm already watching some of the latest information coming in. Tornado warning, by the way, is out from Leverett and East Leverett, running all the way up through Shutesbury, North Prescott, Cooleyville, and the north end of the Quabbin until we get to about 8:30. However, we're already seeing a diminishment of the rotation. It was a very, very brief spin-up that took place. Essentially, the quick spin-up came out of North Amherst, and it was moving northeast up toward Shutesbury. So here is Amherst now. Let me swing you over to the storm relative velocity, and you get a little bit better feel for where we are. This is your center of rotation that I can highlight for you. And what I'll do is get myself out of the way and go ahead and just bring up so you can see just kind of plain and simple what's going on with regard to the storm and the radar itself. That's your center of rotation. It's over Shutesbury right now. One of the things I can do here for you is I could actually zoom in a little bit more and give you a better feel for exactly where it is. This is the area. It's moving off to the east-northeast toward Cooleyville and North Prescott. So this is going to be the area that would be most concerned about here. If I zoom in a little bit more, there's Leverett Road. And, you know, really what happens, Leverett Road comes out, runs into 202. So 202 is the next area. Should be down in the basement here if you are under this tornado warning. Again, a tornado warning has been issued now from Franklin County, running all the way across the northern end of the Quabbin Reservoir, including Shutesbury until 8:30 this evening. New Salem, you are on the north end of this storm along 202. South end has been in Pelham, Massachusetts. So again, it's in the path of this storm in the purple. That's where you've got your tornado warning that's up. That's where you want to be sheltered indoors down at the lowest level of your home or business. This storm has a history of producing what appears to be damaging wind on radar. And at this point, we have no confirmation of a tornado touchdown with this storm. This is purely radar indicated. I can bring you back over to the kind of more conventional radar in the way that we normally look at it. And what you'll see is it's right on the leading edge to the storm. I can give you a little bit of analysis as to what's going on. Let me break out the telestration so you can see. Shutesbury, the reason I keep saying you again and again and again is because what we have happening here is a little notch that's starting to develop inside the storm. Essentially what's happening is you've got air and inflow coming in on the north side. It's coming around the center of rotation that's over Shutesbury right now, and then you're wrapping in wind on the back side. So you do have a chance for damaging wind when you get on the south side of the storm and into Route 202. On the north side of the storm, again, you're likely to find what will end up being plenty of cloud-to-ground lightning. There's a hail core that's located just northwest of Shutesbury, and that is continuing to move off to the east toward New Salem. The problem here is that the overall motion of the storm is east-northeast. So that puts New Salem in the 202 corridor in the line of sight. We do get these updates every now and again, about every 60 seconds on the radar. So you're going to see new radar scans coming in, and you'll see them live as I'm going to continue to bring them to you live and give you a feel for what's going on with each of the storms. Bringing myself back out on camera now. Bottom line here, if you're just joining us, is you got a tornado warning that's going to be out now until we get to about 8:30. That tornado warning now is for Worcester County. Severe thunderstorm warning is around it, but there's that tornado warning morning until 8:30, Franklin County, Massachusetts, and bleeding over the Quabbin and running over 202, and then back out toward 122 on the east side of the warning. All right, let's go ahead and get you back over to the storm relative velocity. One of the things that I like to do is I like to give you an idea for where the rotation is and how it's looking compared to where it was before. What we're seeing right now is a separation in the rotation, which is to say it pulsed briefly, as they've been doing tonight. The problem with this one, and it was a phenomenal call by the Weather Service because it's been a very difficult evening. If you've been following our posts on social media from 1 Degree Outside or to Facebook or X, we've been talking about the fact that multiple storms have been pulsing and rotating and then dying within 60 to about 120 seconds. Within a minute or two, you get a rotation. It looks like, my goodness, that could be tornadic, and it goes away within 1 to 2 minutes. So generally, the kind of rule that I've been using tonight has been if I get 2 scans, so they're a minute apart, if I get 2 scans in a row that illustrate rotation that's tight, then that tells me that we need to come up with a live stream. So we got the 2 scans of rotation. The Weather Service must be using the same protocol tonight because they went up in very short order for that matter as well. And you can see behind me here the Shutesbury area, and then that's the storm. Now it's cleared over Shutesbury. So if you're watching us from downtown Shutesbury, you're now behind a storm, and you're essentially in the clear on this. If you're farther out ahead of it, though, from New Salem down 202, and I can zoom in and get a little bit more kind of up close and personal with the street label. Sorry, getting a text at the same time. Let's see, from someone. Wow, okay, so this is up in southern New Hampshire. I believe we've got a tree that just came through the roof there. So nonetheless, damaging storms all over the place. I'll take you to southern New Hampshire in just a second. But here's New Salem, here's 202, there's Bliss Road. You're up next. From Bliss Road all the way back up the Daniel Shays Highway, we want you tucked in the basement. You are in the path of this storm. Off to the east is the Munson Road Turnpike, or Munson Turnpike Road, but nonetheless, that is also another spot where you've got the rotation that's tracking South Athol. You'll be the next that's up running out to Burge Corner. Now again, one thing I'll point out is we've seen a little separation over the original area of rotation, but one thing I'm noticing is on the south side of the storm over North Prescott now, you've had some rotation starting to try and tighten up as well. You can see where the red and green come together. Let me take myself out of the view again so you get a better shot. This is another area where you've had a pulse of rotation coming up. That's making its way toward Vaughan Road out of North Prescott. It's going to go up toward Millington Road as it moves east-northeast, move over the Quabbin, and come up over the State Reservation Road. So again, that's all moving east-northeast. So you've got a couple of different areas right now that are rotating. The main area of rotation just came over Shutesbury. If you're watching us from Shutesbury, I mentioned it earlier, you are now behind the storm and you're in the clear. Let's get you back over to the more conventional radar. And again, to kind of zoom this out and give you that explanation again, what we're seeing is when you look at the radar presentation, if you're on the north side of this thing around Orange and Athol, this is your second round of storms tonight. You already dealt with one round of storms. That's coming down Route 2 right now. This is the second round that's been coming through. And in Orange and Irving and Athol, you're getting heavy rain. You're going to get cloud-to-ground lightning. Let me switch on the lightning strikes, and you can actually see live lightning strikes that are showing up here on the screen. The flashing ones are ones that have happened within the last 5 minutes. I've color-coded these so that basically when you see the white and the purple lightning strikes, those are negative strikes. When you see the yellow, those are positive. What does it mean? Positive strikes tend to be more powerful. One of the things that we tend to look for is we want to see whether or not we have any indication that we have some sort of, right now, some sort of lightning uptick that's going on in the tornadic part of the storm. But if I take you back over to that and you look at the tornadic part of the storm, which is just now approaching New Salem from the south and west along Route 202, and then stretch down toward the north end of the Quabbin, notice that the lightning strikes are lagging behind just a bit. But you've still got a lot of cloud-to-ground lightning over the last 5 minutes over Amherst and then stretched up toward Wendell. Wendell's got the greatest concentration of lightning. You've also got some hail that's coming down in this. Now, Wendell, you're outside of that area of rotation. You're outside of the tornado warning. But nonetheless, you're still getting hit hard with a lot of lightning right now, cloud-to-ground strikes, hail and torrential rain. Again, if you're just joining us, a tornado warning remains in effect for the northern end of the Quabbin Reservoir, including Shutesbury to New Salem. But Shutesbury, we've cleared you and mentioned that you are now behind the center of rotation. That tornado warning will be out till 8:30. And I got to tell you, it may get discontinued early. I wouldn't be shocked if it does get discontinued early, and the reason I say that is because we're starting to see a bit of a separation in the rotation. I can take it over to the rotation again. You still got at least some what we call gate-to-gate shear, though. You've still got some area where the red and the green are abutting up against one another. That was over Bliss Road about 40 seconds ago because we get these scans about every 60 seconds or so. So it's just crossing the north end of the Quabbin. The original area rotation actually started to move north. It was up toward New Salem, and that started to separate just a bit. What I'm looking for, if you're watching this live stream, presumably you'd like to know a little bit more about the in-depth part of what we're looking for and what we're looking at. So what I'm looking for here is right here. I'm looking at gate-to-gate shear, we call it. I'm looking at when the wind out of one direction in red and the wind out of another direction in green come up and kiss one another. And when I see that happen, I say, all right, we've got what's called a tight rotation here. Farther off to the north, where we started out with one of our areas of rotation over New Salem now, that's separated. You can see you've got the white that shows up in between there, and that tells us that you don't necessarily have that same gate-to-gate shear that's going on that you have right now farther to the south coming out of North Prescott. Now, this is going to head out toward Petersham, and this is going to continue to make its way out toward 122. It looks like it probably will end up coming north of the 122-32 interchange, but you can bet we'll keep an eye on it, and I'll update you with every one of these 60-second scans that we get. Just had the report that came in of the tree through the house up in New Hampshire. I wish I had a town on that for you. And let me see if I can get that. That came in via text. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of different ways of communication coming in. But there we go. That's with this storm right here. This one, I was putting out some updates for you on our 1 Degree Outside Twitter a short time ago. And if you're watching from the tornado-warned area, I'm coming right back to you, by the way. I'm not going to leave you. But nonetheless, this area that's producing what we call kind of a bowing segment to the storm when it starts to look like a bow, that's moving off to the east-northeast. And so here's your towns and times on that one. You can see Derry, Wyndham momentarily within just a few. But when you're out by Sandown, you're talking about a little bit later arrival of 8:27. Lowell, Massachusetts, you're going to be on the south end of that storm. There is the chance of damaging wind here. This is not an unbroken line of damaging wind. This is, however, a line of spots where you're seeing the damaging wind that's occurring right now. So we don't expect an unbroken line. We do expect to find spots of damage that'll be going on. Let me go ahead and clear this for you. And what I want to do next is I want to bring you back down to our tornado warning, because if you're just tuning into this live stream and just watching, we are continuing to follow the tornado warning for central Massachusetts and the northern end of the Quabbin Reservoir. Essentially 122 and 32, the junction is right on the east side and just technically outside of that tornado warning. All right, here's the latest scan that's just come in with this. Here's your towns and times. I think this has a pretty good handle on the core of the storm, although we're going to look at where the rotation is in just one moment. But you can see the core of the storm with the worst lightning, the heaviest rain, with the hail. That's all expected to be making its way to Phillipston by 8:35 as it continues to move east-northeast. Templeton by 8:38. Gardner at 8:43. Very important as I zoom the view out to note. Templeton, Gardner, Barrie, Hubbardston, you are not under the tornado warning. This is a short fuse tornado warning for the most part, and the reason for that is because the question is whether or not we're actually going to see a continuation here of the rotation tight enough that we would be concerned about the extension of a tornado warning. Let's go ahead and take a look together. We're going to bring you back over to the velocity plot. Okay, so we are still seeing some amount of gate-to-gate shear that's going on here, and you can see your area of rotation. Essentially right now, it's come over the Bliss Road area. So Bliss Road, I had put you in the basement. Munson Turnpike Road, you've been in the basement. Latest scan shows the rotation has just moved over Munson Turnpike Road. We are now starting to see that rotation separate just a bit as it approaches Petersham. We zoom out just a little bit, and there are other areas of rotation to watch closely, but they are not as strong. So your eye might be drawn, for example, to when you get just east of Pelham and on the south side of the Quabbin. What we're talking about here is where you've got rotation that's tight, but the storm center itself is not exceptionally strong. So if I go back over to the radar in this spot, you're out ahead of the main updraft, and that's not lining up to the point that you'd be imminently concerned with tornado development out of that. This is the vestige of what we've been looking at. I'm going to point it right out to you. You're going to see it right here. You ready? You've got the inflow on the north side. You've got the back side of the storm bringing the downdraft wind here. And in the center, you've had your area of rotation that's just crossed the northern end of the Quabbin. Again, that continues to move to the east-northeast. It is approaching the edge of the tornado warning box. But at this point, it looks like what probably is happening here, and I want to get another scan before I make that statement too bluntly. Yeah, what's happening here is that particular area. Take a look for yourself. What we've got here is an area where the rotation has begun to separate just a bit. We want to see the, in order to be a tornado signature, you want to see the red and the green abutting up against one another, and you just quite simply don't see that anymore there. You are still seeing some signals of that when you get down on the southern end of the Quabbin Reservoir. So we're going to watch this carefully over the next couple of scans to make sure that doesn't continue to intensify. I told you it's running out ahead of the main area of the updraft, of the main core of the storm. But nonetheless, this is still something that you want to watch. So there's the early cancellation of the tornado warning. All right, so the National Weather Service seeing the same thing that you and I have been looking at here. There's now separation between the rotating wind, so the tornado warning was allowed to expire early rather than being out all the way until 8:30. So for those of you that are watching right now, I would encourage you to stay with us, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't know if you saw my tweet earlier on the 1 Degree Outside X account, but basically what I was talking about was that there were 2 times that I nearly was going to come up for a live stream. One was over New Salem, and one was over Phillipston, Massachusetts, because we got one scan, and they come in every minute. And you have to be careful that you're not seeing some sort of pixelation going on, but it wasn't in this case. We got a spin up, and it was gate to gate. It was the wind going in different directions. And so the rule I mentioned at the start of the live stream that I've kind of been using tonight is if we get more than 1 scan, if we get 2 scans in a row, that tells me we probably need to go up, and we probably need to make sure that you're aware that there may be a developing tornado. This was the first time out of the storms in Massachusetts that we saw 2 scans in a row, so 2 minutes worth of data that was showing what appeared to be tight enough rotation for tornadic development. Now, you come farther to the north and east, and you're under severe thunderstorm warnings in western Essex County, northern Middlesex County, bleeding across the state line into New Hampshire. The center of the storm right now over Manchester. You've got the rain that's leading out ahead of it, but you can see here's your towns and times for where we expect things to be. Let me get it out of the way from behind my shoulder. There you go. Manchester at about 8:23, Candy at about 8:37, Raymond about 8:42, and Deerfield 8:44. I would just remind you that's the center of that storm coming out of the Queen City of Manchester right now, which is capable of some localized damaging wind. The reason I point that out is because Deerfield, obviously, you're already into the rain, right? You're already into that right now. So the severe thunderstorm warning that's out for central and southern New Hampshire, we've got multiple ones actually. When you get in across western Maine and Sanford, Maine, the concern here is there's been, and let me swing over to the gray Maine radar. The concern here when you get around Sanford, Maine, the radar returns are actually pretty weak right now, but this has been aligned with a history of wind damage. And so the concern becomes, are we going to be dealing with this again when we come into southern Maine? So that's why you've got the severe thunderstorm warning that's out in western York County. If this weakening trend continues, you're going to end up seeing that the warning not being extended farther east to Portland. But we'll keep an eye on that, and we're waiting to see what we get for any type of damage reports that come in, which have been notably absent so far. But at the same time, when you get into central New Hampshire, sometimes it'll take a little while. When you get into central Mass, sometimes it takes a little while for the damage reports to come in. Frankly, that's the case with almost any city or town, especially when you get outside of areas where there's a ton of people. And that's just because of the fact that it takes some time to deal with the situation before you actually report in that there's been damage going on. Those of you watching us in Haverhill, you're right on the edge of this downpour now. It's already into Salem. You can see the flashing lightning strikes. Again, I mentioned earlier, when you see the flashing lightning strikes, that's what I've colored out to be every 5 minutes. It updates. No, that's not true. It's live updates, but it's within 5 minutes those lightning strikes have happened, all right? That's what I'm trying to say. So basically, your flashing ones are your most recent cloud-to-ground lightning strikes. So Wyndham has a pretty decent amount of that's happening right now, and that's basically from Derry down to Pelham. Then you outrun the lightning briefly at Dracut, but you got a pretty good storm core right now coming over Dracut. So if you're watching from Methuen to Lawrence, plan on cloud-to-ground lightning strikes in your city as well, because I think we've got it strong enough on the south end that we'll probably see some of these lightning strikes fire up. Keep in mind there's a slight delay here too, so along 111 coming out of Wyndham, you certainly have the lightning strikes. We come down through the severe thunderstorm warned area. And this is where we're going to start to get folks saying, well, you know what, I had a warning, but not much happened in my house. Your severe thunderstorm warning is out for Middlesex County, western Essex County till 8:45. Not everybody's getting damage out of this one. And the reason I say that, quite simply, is because if you look at it yourself, you can see there's pockets There's clusters that are going on in here. So what you get is inside some of the storm cores, you can get the stronger wind gusts that come down. Outside of it, you don't. I've been showing you a lot of what we call storm relative velocity, which kind of accounts for the overall movement of the storm. That helps us to see what's going on with regard to some of the rotation that might be happening inside the storm. What I'd love to do, if I can do it, is get us over to the gray main radar and swing us over to velocity. There we go. And so this is kind of your more standard velocity plot. So one thing that I can do in here is I can try to get you a little bit of a query to get an idea for exactly what's going on, just 34, 38 miles per hour. So you look at this and say, is this something that's going to be widespread damage? And again, I'd go back to no. I don't believe it is going to be widespread damage. I think it's going to be pockets that go on. And in fact, in this case, it may be somewhat isolated pockets. I'll take myself off the screen just a bit here and get you back over to a more conventional radar. And you can see for yourself where you're talking about some of the cloud-to-ground lightning that's really picking up around Manchester and Hooksett right now. So this is some of the worst of the storm for you. If I zoom out a little bit more, you get a little bit better feel for where the storm is kind of pushing in across central New Hampshire, just made its way across Lake Winnipesaukee. Again, certainly right now, most of the action is when you start coming down, let's say south of Rochester, is where you start to hit the storms. And when you get farther down to the south, I think we're talking about what now is a pretty decent bowing segment coming in toward Barrie. I'll zoom you in there. Severe thunderstorm warning continues from Hardwick to Barrie and running up to Templeton and Hubbardston. You've got now the front edge of this storm that's capable of producing some strong wind on top of you. It's just come over 122. That's the core of the storm that previously had been tornado warned and now is just essentially severe thunderstorm warning. And I got to be really careful when I say just severe thunderstorm warning, right? Because one of the things it's really important is it's severe thunderstorms that cause most of the damage when you think about it. You get these large areas of straight line damaging wind that tend to knock down the trees and the tree limbs, and that becomes part of the problem there. Farther off to the east, this is not damaging right now in Harvard, Leominster, Shirley, Groton, running down to Clinton. You've got downpours. You don't even really have much in the way of cloud to ground lightning going on right now. But the farther northeast you go, you start getting into those stronger storm cores again, and that's over Nashua running in towards Salem. Again, Haverhill, you've just gotten into the leading edge to this thing. If you're going to see any damaging wind around Plastow, Atkinson, and Haverhill, you're going to do it right now. If you're going to see it at all in Merrimack, you're going to do it sometime over about the next 15 minutes or so, or 10 minutes. And the reason I say if is because remember what I was talking about, right? With this setup and the way that we've got it here, and I'm going to give you towns and times again in just a minute. But when you look at this, what I've been noticing is that it's been breaking into clusters and losing a little bit of its organization. When it does that, we tend to see the pockets of wind damage really become a bit more broken. But overall, on this line, where and when it's going to be, let me get this out of the way and show you what we've got here. Towns and times are on the right of your screen. So as I mentioned, Atkinson, it's right now. Haverhill, it's moments away. Downtown, you're into it on the north side of town. North Andover, you're at 829. Plastow at 829. That's when you should get, again, you get some rain out ahead of it, but that's when you get the best chance of gusty wind that may cause some damage. Now, we do have some damage reports that are coming in on my end anyway. They haven't come in yet from the storm reports that I see on our map, but certainly I've been getting reports from you of some damage that's been going on in some trees and tree limbs that have been coming down. So I appreciate everybody who's been chiming in. Let's see. We've got, what about the cell in Brookline, New Hampshire? So hopefully I've been able to answer that for you by focusing on our New Hampshire view just a little bit now. Let's see, came in hot and heavy in northern Fitchburg and then fizzled out. All right, thank you very much for letting me know about that. Starting in Methuen. All right, here we go. Methuen, you're into it now. By the way, you say, where can I join the chat to let you know what's going on? Absolutely. So there's a couple of ways you can do it. One, just go right over to livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. I've got all the chats and the live streams loaded up right here in front of me so that you're actually I'm actually able to see your reports as you send it in. If you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, I do get the chats from you as well. I get them via Restream, and I appreciate everybody who's been chiming in. Lots of lightning activity, says Mary Kimball. Mary, I'm not sure where you are on that, but yeah, there is a lot of lightning around. Thoughts on storm potential for the South Shore, says Russ. Severe thunderstorm watch extends almost to Cape Cod Canal. Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to get this stuff to extend farther south. Let me go ahead and, you've had these towns and times up for a while. Let me go ahead and zoom that out just a little bit and zoom the view out for you. And you can see really there's not much action on the south side of the watch area, nor do we expect there to be. There's just not the same amount of thunderstorm energy that's available for you that there is farther to the north. So while not impossible that you get a couple of storms and downpours that can bubble up, at the same time, most of this action is likely going to stay near and north of the Mass Turnpike, with the notable exception that maybe as the storms come right along the pike, they may bleed a little bit farther south. That's not to say there's not going to be anything to the south, but you can see much less action the farther south that you go. M. Wall says, enjoy all the data you're providing. Good, I'm glad to hear it. Thank you, M. Wall. And some of that data, too, comes from each and every one of you who continues to give the updates here on the live stream. So the idea for this live stream is, look, it's designed to be interactive. It's designed to change things from the way that I've done them for the last 25 years and go from broadcasting and just kind of telling you to having a conversation. And the best way to do that is through the live stream chat. So again, I invite you to do that on YouTube, on Twitch, also at livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. That is, I've got the chat built in right to the page there, and you'll be able to watch it. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look again together at the latest radar scan. And once again, I'm going to bring myself off the screen for a brief time, just so you can get a little bit better feel for what's going on here across central Massachusetts. Because if you already dealt with the storms once in Fitchburg and Leominster and Princeton, look, you've got another round coming in. So this is not the time to go back out there. I would encourage folks not to do that because you've got a lot of lightning with this next round. And right now, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning that's out with it. The center of the storm, you can see, is expected to continue moving east-northeast at about 38 miles per hour. Townsend Times, just to the upper left of center of your screen, coming through Gardner at 8:48 on its current path. But it's already raining in Gardner, but that's when the heart of this, the core of the storm, is going to come through. We've got the thunder and lightning that's up over Phillipston and along Route 202 right now. There's an update for you. Good. And we update the Townsend Times live for you on the screen. So latest scan comes in. We give it to you. Storm motion is accelerated slightly. Only thing I would caution you toward is those Townsend Times. Look where they're based off of, right? They're based off the center. So what I'd be smart to do, and what I always like to do for you, is I like to get rid of that. I like to zoom out, and I like to actually draw the storm track on for you. So here we go. We'll bring it out. Let's take it off to the northeast. We'll bring it about 38 miles per hour or so to the east-northeast, and a little bit farther. There we go. And these are your Townsend Times now of when that storm cell is going to arrive. So if you're in Air or Littleton or Harvard, you say, well, wait a minute, I'm into it right now. I know, but look at the break that you get, okay? It's going to come to a close. And then you get the next round. And the next round for Harvard, for Air, for Littleton, for the 495 belt west of Boston, that next round's worse than the first one. You've got much more in the way of cloud-to-ground lightning that's with it right now, so that's going to be a bit of an issue for you as well. And so that's going to be something that you want to be aware of, is that you don't want to be outside with this. You want to make sure that everyone, if the kids wanted to get back out, I know it's late, it's getting dark, but if they want to get back out and run around, oh, yeah, go play. The storm's right now. Keep them inside for the time being because you've got another one you're going to have to get through that's still making its way through, all right? So there are your Townsend Times on that next round that's coming through. If you're watching us farther to the north, I'm trying to make sure that I cover everybody here, and I hope you feel like I'm doing an okay job of that. Candia to Raymond and Deerfield. You're getting into the heart of the storm now as it kicks out of the Queen City at Manchester and continues to move off to the east toward Dover. Again, one thing I could do, I can take the heart of the storm and I could show you your Townsend Times, and that's okay. Well, you know what I'm going to do next, right? I'm going to take the leading edge because I think that's really important too. But as for the heart of the storm, with the worst of the thunder and lightning, the heaviest of the rain, the best potential for some damaging downburst winds, but those will be isolated. Newington about 8:55, Rochester about 8:56, Elliott at 8:58. And at Portsmouth, about 8:58 for that matter as well. So again, it is moving in. That's the center of the storm. Again, one thing that I want to do for you is I do want to draw the leading edge. It's a very different story on the leading edge, isn't it? Right? Let me go ahead and wipe that off. That wasn't done very well. There we go. And we'll go ahead and we're going to take that leading edge from Sanford, Maine. I'm going to draw it all the way back down to Dover, take it out to Fremont, bring it back into the Merrimack Valley at Lawrence where it's pouring right now. We're going to take that east at an average speed of just under 40 miles per hour. And you're going to get updated Townsend Times that are going to show up here for you in terms of when you're going to be dealing with the leading edge to the downpours and the increased chance of cloud-to-ground lightning. So you see those times showing up there. Amesbury, 8:36, you're about 6 minutes out What I think is interesting is a lot of these towns, Newburyport 840. So, I mean, the coast is just 10 minutes away from getting this, right? It continues to accelerate eastward. And that means if you're in our coastal communities, it won't be long before this one's on top of you as well. So now's the time in eastern Essex County. If you have folks that are out on the water, if you got folks that are out on Plum Island, let them know they got to come in right now. They've got 10 minutes or less before we get that storm in on top of you, okay? So we want to make sure that we get folks from Plum Island. And if they're out on the beaches of Gloucester, look, the storms are coming in from the west. You've got a little bit more time when you get out around Gloucester, but at the same time, it's not like you have an eternity. Let's go ahead and get your towns and times for the southern end. Now, remember, it's a little bit more broken here, right? But at the same time, you can see towns and times farther south, including the Boston Metro. This will be more broken action that comes in, kind of downpour here, downpour there. Some people complain that their garden didn't get any water out of it. Other people get a pretty good wash out of it. But nonetheless, you can see that someplace like Arlington, it's 8:52 before it arrives. So you've got a little bit longer. But there's nobody on here. There's nobody on here that would be any time after 9 p.m. So within the next half hour, everybody's into it, all the way to the North Shore and to Cape Ann in terms of getting into the front edge of it. All right. Okay, let's get back over to this central mass storm. So one thing that we're picking up on here is a tornadic vortex signature. What this is, it's a signal from the radar, and this is from National Weather Service radar, that it believes there may be a tornado trying to develop in this area. I can tell you that at this point that does not appear to be a case, but let me prove it to you. All right, let me prove it to you. We'll clear this off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing you back over now to the velocity, and it's the storm relative velocity where you could actually see if there are any areas of rotation. You see any? Nope. This is all wind that's going in one straight line. So this is where you have to be a little bit careful and a little cautious. We've had a number tonight of tornadic vortex signatures. We've had a number of times the radar has said, I think there's a tornado developing, and only once was the rotation sufficient to warrant a tornado warning being issued. This will not be one of those times. Going over to the plain kind of regular velocity mode, I like this for you for straight line wind because it does not correct for the storm motion. So you get an actual true velocity scan out of this. Look at that, 64 miles an hour, radar estimated wind coming into Ocam. All right, that whole thing is moving off to the east right now. And you've got, it's not the only spot. All right, you get just south of Hubbardston, 65 miles per hour. That's coming in on 190. There's the new severe thunderstorm warning. Are you surprised? No. No, we just were looking at it. So, look, one of the things that I try and do with you is the exact same radar analysis that goes on whether you're looking at issuing a warning, whether you're looking at going on in a broadcast, or in this case, whether I'm looking at doing a live stream. It's the same thing, right? I'm trying to show you that behind-the-scenes analysis of what's going on inside of these storms. So the idea is, if I'm doing my job right, you should see the conditions that warrant a severe thunderstorm warning before the severe thunderstorm warning is issued. So now we've gone into a severe thunderstorm warning here around the Boston metropolitan area until 9:15. You can see that area next to me that goes basically all the way from the immediate Boston Metro West, running off to the north and west out through Danvers. Again, just remember what we talked about here with this, which is not all of these areas are going to end up seeing damage. And I only continue to stress that because this year in particular, the way that the action has been, it's been very scattered in spots, especially southern New England. So that said, I can't make any promises to you on lightning, right? Because lightning happens wherever it wants, and it's just as much of a danger as anything else. But I can track for you the damaging downburst winds and where we think those are happening. And right now, around the Merrimack Valley, I would be surprised if we get much in the way of damage reports, considering we've seen a bit of weakening of the storm cores. But I can also tell you want to be sheltered indoors away from windows now as the storm center continues to come over 495 at Haverhill and West Newbury and heads toward Amesbury. Just about to Plum Island now. We warn you folks had to get in out of Plum Island, right? So here it comes. In on top of you. You've got thunder and lightning now coming back in at Lowell and Drake. You already got hit once. You're going to get hit again by the next round that's coming in. You've got quite a bit of lightning continuing from Nashua to Manchester and up to Windham, New Hampshire. That's that cell that's over southern New Hampshire right now. Look, it's been kind of broken up. You've had one leading edge that was most capable of significant wind, but now most of the lightning has been consolidated back with that second area as it moves in toward Windham. So that's coming over Route 93 right now. Farther to the north, severe thunderstorm warnings go out through Kennebunk and Wells, so they have not yet been continued out toward Portland. But center of the storm that's been over Candia and Raymond, now producing heavy rain when you get out by Dover. Somersworth is very much into this as well, and you can see that extends up Route 16. This is mostly a heavy rain threat for those of you that are out of the road, but there still may be some pockets of wind damage that occur with it. Kingston is mostly a heavy rain threat. Atkinson right now, mostly a heavy rain threat. Then you get down into this next area, which is looking stronger on the southern edge now, coming out of Belchertown toward Ware. So we're going to pay close attention to that. I'll switch over to the storm relative velocity for you on this one. We are getting some broad area of rotation here. I'm not imminently worried about that or concerned about that with regard to any type of tornadic development, imminently being the key word, right? We'll see what happens with this as it continues to move farther to the east, and we'll watch to see if it strengthens at all as it moves eastward. Again, if you're just joining us, earlier we had the tornado warning, but now we're following severe thunderstorm warnings, and I would not say that the chance for tornado warnings is done entirely here, but it is diminished substantially. We're going to be watching to make sure that no smaller areas of rotation spin up on the leading edge to these storms, but right now I'm not seeing any signals that that is an imminent thing to happen. If you're someone who's used to getting more of the kind of conventional radar view, I can swing you back over to that again. One of the things we can do is we can certainly look at hail and see what we're looking at for hail potential, and here's where some of the hail cores have been. When you get around Barrie, that's just shifting off to the east now, but I'd like to go ahead and try and analyze for you what we're looking at with regard to hail potential here. And essentially, with this particular area, you've got hail possible to probable. If you line it up with the legend at the top of the screen, the pink to purple is where you've got possible to probable hail in this location. All right, so that's going to be one of the spots that we watch. We also can look at shear overall and give you a little bit better feel for what's going on in terms of where the winds are kind of going against one another in terms of the rotation aspect. And we've had some of that tracking across the Route 2 corridor. We've had some of that tracking through parts of north central Massachusetts. But at this current moment, we don't see a lot that stands out. One of the areas that you could say stands out perhaps a little bit more is when we get in around Westminster. But if I swing you back over to the kind of the more standard radar for that with velocity, there's a very small area. You can see the red and the green right there, red and green, that's kind of next to each other. Very small area that's got some rotation with it, but not something at this point, not something in any way, shape, or form that you'd be concerned about tornadic development with. So I would really say that when you get into central Mass, around Holden and Leominster, your biggest concern, absolutely, by far, 100%, is straight line damaging wind. And this is why, again, where you see those blues, we just looked together a short time ago, we are producing wind gusts in excess of 60 miles per hour as gauged by the radar. There's the live lightning strikes again. When you see them flashing, that's within 5 minutes. We've had the live lightning strikes here. The ones that are steady are a little bit older than that. But Princeton, you're blowing right now. Holden, hang on. Here it comes. Make sure you're tucked indoors away from windows as the storm comes through, because while it is all straight line wind coming out of Rutland, we don't have a concern that there's going to be any type of rotation with this storm right now. It is capable of bringing down trees and tree limbs, and in fact, it's been doing that in spots. Sterling to West Boylston. You're going to be up next. You're going to stay tucked inside as the storm comes on through. Again, likely straight line damaging wind, but a lot of lightning with it, some torrential rain with it as well. If you're watching from Barrie over to Hardwick, it's still coming down pretty hard in terms of the rain, but the worst of the wind has gone by you now. You can go back over to the regular radar and see for yourself where you get some of the heavier rain elements over Barrie now. Those go down all the way to Hardwick and New Braintree, and then running down to Ware. We always like to watch the southern end of these storms when we see them develop, because when you get these little knobs that develop on the south side, what you have to be very careful for is you want to make sure that you don't start wrapping the air inside to the center of that knob, because if you do, then you can get rotation to spin up. So a lot of what I do on this live stream is I kind of let you know in real time what I'm looking at so that you can know it ahead of time. So that's one thing that, just so you know, we're filing away in kind of the mental encyclopedia saying, okay, we'll keep an eye on that, but we're not imminently concerned with it yet. Farther off to the east, if you're watching us around Lowell, we just had a strong lightning strike in Lowell. I mentioned earlier that what I do here is I actually have colored the lightning strikes differently. So the yellow lightning strikes are positive strikes, which tend to be stronger, have a more charge to them. They're more rare, too. A lot of times you get negatively charged lightning strikes. You say, that's a little bit more science that I needed right there. Well, maybe, but it will help you if you watch this live stream often, because you'll be able to see for yourself that we have spots where there are really strong strong and really charged electricity jolts that come through. I want to get back over to your chat now, your messages, and see what you've been reporting in with. Let's see, tree down at my friend's house in Hudson, New Hampshire. Thank you, Deb. Raining in Methuen, not much lightning here. I'll check my rain gauge later. What are the highest winds reported? Mike, we've had reported winds in excess of 65 miles per hour in Berkshire County. North Adams went to 66. We also have had earlier reports out of eastern New York State of gusts in excess of 70 miles per hour. So that's been some of the more the higher measured reports that I've seen come through so far. And now as you start to get farther east, you're going to get fewer of those measured reports. It becomes a little bit more hit or miss on whether you're going to end up getting the center of these storm cores to move right over a measuring site or not. So, and the reason I say that, I was mentioning this a short time ago, you start to just see the broken nature to these things. And when you start to get that more broken nature, they're still capable of doing damage, but the damage becomes much more isolated rather than being a widespread type of thing. So just so you know, that's the thought process there. Let's see, seeing more of the chat here on livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. How's it looking for Needham? Well, Needham is just south of what we have going on now. That next line, though, is probably going to get Needham. It's coming out of Holden. It'll be close, but I wouldn't be surprised if it could expand just enough. You'll be right on the edge of that. So I'll keep you posted here on the live stream as it comes in on top of you. But you got probably about another 30 minutes or so before that would get to you. Let's see, I also heard from my wife and her brother the storm temporarily stopped the DMB concert in Guilford, New Hampshire. Yeah, not surprised about that. And temporary being the key word, because up around Guilford, they're back behind most of the storm now. They're back behind the worst of the thunder and lightning, so they're able to get back into it there. Lots of wind and lightning in Lowell. Very good. Thank you for that. Just heard my sister-in-law lost power near Keene. All right, I'm not surprised. And this is what I mean. Look at Keene. Keene is on the, let me swing back. Let me get myself out of the view because I keep looking in the opposite direction. That's just where my monitor is, right? But let me go ahead and get myself out of the view. Keene is way back behind where the storms are now. So we're just finding out that power's out in Keene. And this is what I meant earlier when I said, look, sometimes it takes a while to get some of those reports to come in to let you know that there's been issues with damage done and with power out. Special marine warning has just gone up now when you get along the coastal waters from Merrimack River running up to Portland, Maine at the southern end of Casco Bay. Mariners hopefully are back in port by this point. And actually, you know what? I got to say, we've heard from a lot of you who watch our live stream when we do these from your boat. I really appreciate that, and I want you to know that we want to take good care of you. So hopefully these are helpful to you as you can at least watch the live radar and see the storms as they close in on top of you, which they're doing right now, aren't they? You got them right around Portsmouth Harbor, got them just coming on top of Hampton Harbor. Seabrook, same deal. Rain has begun. Lightning's at Amesbury, but really you can infer that the lightning's going on right now underneath the core at I-95. So Newburyport, Salisbury, Seabrook, Hampton, lightning has arrived for us. Rye, it is minutes away in off the beach, and for hopefully the boats are in around Portsmouth Harbor and Kittery and Agunquit. You're going to get a pretty good storm. Kennebunk to Agunquit, Wells, and then running up to Biddeford. That's a pretty good storm. It's coming in on top of you right now. National Weather Service opting not to extend the severe thunderstorm warning to Portland, instead issuing a special weather statement for this, basically just saying, all right, look, this storm has got some gusty wind. It's going to have some thunder and lightning with it. And it's close to being warnable, but not quite there. And then you got this one. This is kind of the biggest game in town right now in New England. We're still seeing, look at that. All those flashes are cloud-to-ground lightning strikes that have come in just within the last 5 minutes alone. So this is coming over Princeton, but Leominster, it's just about on top of you. Fitchburg, the window is closed. You remember I was telling you that if you're anywhere from Fitchburg to Hudson, you got a break, but then you get back into it again, right? So here it is. Now, it's tough. When I do these storm tracks, I could show you the center of the storm, and I've been doing that a little bit. I just always worry that it's a little bit deceptive, right? Because essentially, I mean, look, the thunder and lightning begins on the front edge. So really, why don't we track the front edge of this storm here from Leominster to Holden? It's moving off essentially to the east-northeast. It's been accelerating just a little bit over the course of the evening. The storms are getting a little stronger, so 40 miles per hour. Here's your towns and times and when we think they're going to be arriving to places like Devens, Bolton, and it's updating live for you, by the way. Every time, the new scan I told you earlier comes in every 60 seconds. So every 60 seconds, you're going to see an update to this. Okay, lost power at the Fitchburg-Lunenburg line at 7:52. So that was with the last round of storms. So Yeah, you can bet, Finch, that you're going to be out of power for a little while, aren't you? Because, I mean, there's still so much thunder and lightning around right now, and cloud to ground lightning strikes. There's no way you get line crews out there at this point. So they can't even get working on it for a little while longer. So you'll be without for some time tonight. So if you're kind of on the fence about whether or not you should plan for at least a couple hours without power, I would think so. Lots of lightning in Chelmsford, says one of the folks on the live stream. And again, if you're watching on a live stream on YouTube or on Twitch, you can chime in right there. Also, though, you can always go to livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. I've got a chat right there. Danielle and I wanted to make sure there was always a chat you could access easily, and that's where you can do it, livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. Why would you do that? Well, you can see others' reports, but also you can let me know what's going on, which really helps for Danielle and I to stay on top of things. Right on my doorstep in Sterling, lightning is vivid and constant. Yep, should be in on top of you here. And how's it looking for Gloucester? You know what? It's a great question. We had talked about Gloucester a short time ago. You're going to be into it. It's already at North Reading, and it's zooming east. But I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go ahead and I'll give you the latest in terms of the towns and times and when we think it's going to arrive. Here's your leading edge. All right, your average speed is about 40 miles per hour or so coming off to the east. So here's your towns and times showing up for you here. So essentially Marblehead at 9:13. Gloucester, you're going to be right about that same time, right? Gloucester fits right in there. So probably about 9:15, it's going to be on top of you. You got a northern edge that's coming over Ipswich and it's kind of straddling and staying just north of 133. So Newbury, Byfield, West Newbury, you've been into the downpour with some thunder and lightning. There may be just a very small core of damaging wind that's trying to develop right along Route 1 when you get in the Newbury stretch down toward Topsfield. But I got to tell you, I think that would be very isolated because right now what we're seeing is this thing kind of breaking up a little bit in terms of its presentation. So I would say your two biggest areas of concern right now are going to be from Durham to Portsmouth in New Hampshire. You've got a lot of still cloud-to-ground lightning with some heavy rain, Nashua to Derry, and I shouldn't overlook that. I guess I should say that you've got enough rain for ponding of water on the Everett Turnpike. So when you start getting south of Merrimack and you start running into some of the heavier rainfall that's coming down, you're going to have ponding of water on the Everett at Route 3. You're also going to have it on 93, and there's more. There's a lot more of that to come across 93. So just so you know, I think that the travel is going to continue to be a bit difficult in southern New Hampshire, and then certainly across the state line where now the downpours run from Lawrence to Lowell along Route 495. They are moving northeast. So look, Methuen at 213 in the loop, you're going to fit right into the exact same thing I was just talking about earlier for Route 2. You got one round. There's a break right now. You don't want the kids going out. You don't want to be going out because you've got more thunder and lightning rapidly closing in from the west. So even though you just got done with one, there's Route 125 that runs up. Essentially, you're looking at the stretch from North Andover to Haverhill. You've got a break at the moment, but the rain's going to be on top of you again in no time. There's Topsfield. All right, so you just got missed in Topsfield with that nub that I was talking about from Newbury to Rowley, right? So that's where you're talking about a little bit heavier pulse that's been going on. But right now, not into Topsfield. It will be soon. That stuff coming out of Andover is straddling Route 28. It's moving east through North Reading. So that'll be into Wenham, Hamilton, Essex soon. I'm not convinced that we'll see a continuation of the severe thunderstorm warning all the way to Cape Ann. It depends on what that thunderstorm cell does and what we get for reports. And again, if you're watching this right now and you want to chime in with some of the reports, I'd always be happy to hear from you. Lots of lightning in Ashby. Thank you very much for the update there. I appreciate that. Meanwhile, let's see. Haverhill seems to be reaching a lull for them. Yep, that's what we were just talking about there. Thank you very much. You're right. You're in the lull, but just for a moment. Tewksbury's pouring, and Tewksbury is sending that back up toward Haverhill and sending that back out through Andover. So you're going to get that again. So if you're watching this right now and you've got a little lull around Lake Cochituick or you get it all the way back out through Boxford, just understand that you're going to have another storm coming in. So you're going to have cloud-to-ground lightning again. You're going to have heavy rain again. This I've been calling the biggest show in town that's left right now. This is the storm that runs from Princeton to Lancaster. You've got a southern nub that's out by New Braintree, so we'll watch that because that's headed out toward Worcester proper. But nonetheless, in terms of the center of this storm, it continues to move off to the north and east northeast In terms of what time the leading edge to the storm arrives, I want to kind of draw that out for you. And again, what I'll do is I'll bring it out at an average speed of about 40 miles per hour or so, accelerating just a little bit more than that. I'll get the towns and times out of the way so they're not in front of my head. There you go. Now they're in front of my desk, all right? And you can get a little bit better feel for what we're looking at in terms of the towns and times when this thing should arrive. Again, you can see right over my shoulder at Lowell, at Chelmsford, at Billerica, you're into the heavy rain now. You're going to get a break, and then you're going to get back into it again. So some of you see your towns and times showing up in this list, and you say, it's raining on me already. Why are you giving me towns and times when it arrives? That's the next round. So you got the one round shipping out. You got the next round that's shipping in. So that's what we're going to be watching for you, is bringing that essentially right in on top of you here with the second round that comes by. There is plenty of thunder and lightning with that one as well, plenty of cloud-to-ground lightning strikes that are there. And again, that's just starting to come in on Harvard now. Littleton, you're going to be up next in about the next 10 minutes. All right, so we talked about that gap that was closing around Haverhill. It's continuing to close. 213 at the Loop. We were saying the rain was moments away. It's in on top of you now. If we go a little bit closer and we get a little bit more detail to it, street level, here's where some of your heavier downpours are located, right? So over Lawrence, you're talking about Canal Street to Andover Street, Mount Vernon neighborhood, and then down to Andover. So right past the water tower at Mount Vernon. West Parish is into some of the heavy rain, and the leading edge to it now is over North Andover. It's over Waverly Road and coming up farther to the north and east toward Chickering and Route 125. There it is. There's a new scan. Every 60 seconds you get a new scan. So you're going to take that right into West Boxford next, as it continues to come right down 97 and 133, both going to have the storm essentially coming right along it. So both state highways are going to be finding that rain coming right down and following. Georgetown, Groveland, East Boxford. You got hit once, you got a break, you got the next one coming in. There's that heavy rain at Nashville. One of the things we can do there, I would actually like to let's see if we can get a rain estimate on how much we've got that's come down there here. I should be able to pull this over. Hold on one second. Let's get that out of the way. There we go. And see if I can pull you over to a rain estimate so we can see exactly what's come down so far, because it's been coming down for quite some time. There's no question about that. And so if I can get where we're at in terms of those rainfall amounts, that'll help. Here we go. All right, I found it. So we'll go over to the radar rainfall amounts and see what we've got. We'll come back in around Hollis. All right, 0.85 inches of rain that's come down here. 0.57, okay, but it's coming down hard enough. I'm going to guess that when that gets updated again in short order, we're very likely to find what will be higher amounts that come in. Let me see if I can get anything. Yeah, all right, here we go. So this is a little bit finer resolution, a little bit higher detail. Let's see what we've got here. 0.89. 1.06. Okay, so we continue to add up just a little bit, but nonetheless, we've got, essentially coming down hard enough. Rain rate is going to estimate how hard it's coming down at the moment, and this will probably tell the story a little bit better for you. Your rain rate over Nashua is 4.7 inches per hour, all right? So while the rain amounts may take a little while to add up, at the same time, the rate at which it's coming down is pretty exceptional. It's interesting, too, because one of the other things that you can see is when you get farther down to the south and east, someplace like Lawrence, 4.4 inches per hour. Windham, New Hampshire, 5.1 inches per hour. So you get the idea. You've still got real heavy rain that's coming down across all these spots. And so that's why we're talking about ponding of water that's happening out on the roadway. So it wasn't just something I was mentioning off the cuff. It's going on right now. Let's bring you back over to the more kind of conventional radar that you're used to seeing. Let's zoom you out a little bit more. All right, there's the southern edge of that storm out of Andover, strengthening a bit as it comes into Boxford. But again, at this point, it's mostly going to be heavy rain for you. There's going to be some lightning that's with it. You've got a lot of cloud-to-cloud lightning up in the cloud. You've got a limited amount of cloud-to-ground lightning. You're not seeing a lot of that showing up on our lightning detection system here. But you certainly have the heavy rain that's coming down, and that's going to continue to move into East Boxford. And then here's where your real show is in terms of your cloud-to-ground lightning. Sterling, you had said in the chat that it was right on top. He was going to be there soon. Yeah, it's there. We've made it, haven't we? Let me see if I've got any updated reports from you folks at home on our chat as to what's going on. Okay, so Plastow, 8:52, rain letting up after 0.7 inches so far. Very good. Okay, 30 minutes later from the last post from Right Wales 74, and I don't remember exactly what town you're in. I'm scrolling back to see if I can find you. But nonetheless, it looks like you've still got near constant lightning. Yeah, that makes sense. This has been awesome. Good relying on you for weather since I was a kid. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I'm glad that this is helping you out. So again, if you're watching us from Harvard, Littleton, Acton, storm is coming right in on top of you again. Route 2 corridor, it's been coming right down Route 2. It's just crossing 495 at Bolton. So you're going to get back into not only the heavy rain, but the thunder and lightning for that matter as well. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look and see whether we've got anything going on in terms of rotation, and we do not. We don't. Nope, there's nothing to be concerned about with rotation here. Okay, thank you very much, Right, Will. Excellent. All right, very good. Thank you. And so we've got the wind that's in here is mostly straight line wind. And so what I can do is I can take you off. See, storm relative velocity, what that does is that kind of tries to account for the storm motion. But this is straight up velocity. This is straight line wind estimates. And you've got 54 mile per hour wind estimate out of this thing right now at Bolton. And even back behind it, you've still got a 49 mile per hour estimate out of Sterling. Now, one of the things that I mentioned a short time ago is that you're talking about what's going to end up being pockets of damage that are done, right? You're going to be talking about the damage most likely where you see some of your heaviest rain, first of all, that produce your strongest downbursts. Thunder just starting on the Woburn-Burlington line. No rain yet. Thank you very much for the report there. Just had a few minutes of load the arc rain in Chelmsford. All right, let's get out to you guys. All right, you're chiming in from Burlington, from Chelmsford. You can see for yourself. Here we go. Right around Burlington up to Wilmington is one of our heavier downpours at Route 38. This is some torrential rain up at Tewksbury. There you go. This is what I meant earlier. I told you that you weren't seeing much cloud-to-ground lightning, but that at any moment you might see that, right? Well, here it is, right around Wamsit at South Lowell. You've had a cloud-to-ground lightning strike that took place here near Assel Street, all right? At the same time, the farther northeast that you go, this is looking strong enough that it's ready to produce cloud-to-ground lightning at Boxford as well. So, again, you want to be sheltered inside as the storms come through, not only for the lightning risk, but also for any potential pockets of damaging wind that I truly, and I've been saying this for a little while, I truly believe those are going to be as pockets right now. You say, well, can you give me a velocity scan over Boxford? Well, I can, but there's something that I need to say here, right? Which is that because you are essentially at this point due north of the National Weather Service radar site, okay? The National Weather Service radar site that covers the area best for Eastern Mass is down in Taunton, Massachusetts. So it's shooting the radar beam off to the north, but the storms are moving west to east. So what you're doing is you're trying to sample the wind that's coming down to the south. There's not much there. You don't get a lot, all right? Because if you had a radar that was to the east or the west, you'd see different amounts of wind showing up. It'd be higher. I'm not saying it'd be damaging across the board, but it'd be higher, all right? And that's why when you get out around someplace like Clinton in Central Mass, you at least have just a little bit of kind of diagonal shot on the radar beam there, so you're able to get a little bit better feeling for what the winds are like inside the storm. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, the storm, I would encourage you to keep in mind that we're talking about the center of the storm, but what's going to be happening here. Looks like I lost internet briefly, but hopefully I'm still with you. But nonetheless, the center of the storm is what you're getting tracked on times there. That's the worst of the lightning. That's the worst of the the rain that's coming down, not necessarily the leading edge to it, though. And it looks like, yeah, okay, I am still live with you. That's good. I'm glad. I wasn't sure whether it was a permanent cutout for me or not, but I'm still with you on internet. That's the only danger with doing anything that's internet-based, right? Okay, so in terms of the leading edge to that one, let's get you that again. Look at this. This is going to be Bill Ricca. You've got your third round of thunderstorms. It's going to be coming in on top of you here when this one comes out of Littleton, all right? Let's go ahead and draw this for you. Leading edge, take it out, east-northeast, about 40 miles per hour. So again, when you look at the Townsend Times and you see this for someplace like North Reading at 9:30, keep in mind you're just getting into a batch right now. That's not the time I'm giving you. I'm giving you the next batch. So we're trying to keep you one step ahead of the game here anyway, and you're getting into that next one that's coming in across Stowe and Harvard and Littleton, and that keeps moving off to the north and east and continuing to move through. So that's going to be something that you're going to be on guard for is the next round that comes in on top of you. All right, let's see. What am I getting here for? Do you guys happen to have a velocity loop of the storm that went through southern New Hampshire an hour and a half ago, either a microburst or a tornado? and I want to see it to confirm. Let's see. All right, let's see if I can get enough data going far enough back here. Okay. One of the things we'll do. I don't want to take my eye off of the ball too long as to what we have going on here, but let's see if I can get that to loop through over a long enough period of time. I think probably at the current moment I won't be able to do that. That doesn't mean that I can't do that later on. Let me see if I go back. Well, if I do a 2-hour loop, if I play it through. Oh, look at that. Ha-ha! All right, so the question here is, do we have velocity from a short time ago, about an hour and a half ago? Let's rewind the clock, and we'll take you back to about 7:30. And 7:30, there was, okay, so this was where there was damage that was done around Swansea, New Hampshire, is the area in question here. This is going to be, there's Swansea. All right, so this was the timestamp is in the upper left. Go back, and this is a little bit of kind of detective work. Looks like, as best I can tell, Swansea, New Hampshire was straight line wind. Looks like straight line wind. It always, now if you were down around Fitzwilliam, you can see you had that red and green close to each other. I'd be talking maybe rotation there. But it looks like around Swansea that was likely straight line wind that came through. Unless let's correct for storm relative and see if it shows anything different here. Yep, likely straight line wind. So see that, folks? We do look backs, live look backs for you. As well. Ask and you shall receive. Back to the latest scan on the radar, see what's going on. Again, if you're watching us from Plum Island, you just got done with one round. Guess what? Plum Island, Newburyport, Rowley, one round is done. Round 2 is coming over I-95. Guess what? Round 3 is coming into Andover. Guess what? Round 4 is coming into Harvard and Littleton. The good news is more and more we're seeing these becoming just kind of these clusters of heavy rain, cloud-to-ground lightning, but not necessarily still looking at a widespread area of damaging wind. You might get some pockets of damaging wind. I'm especially looking at here is Acton along Route 2. We have a little bit of an enhanced storm core coming out of Boxborough Station toward North Acton at 27. So north of Route 2 and along Route 2, East Acton, North Acton, you may get a little core of damaging wind that comes down. That's going to try and make its way out to Carlisle and West Bedford as well. To get a little bit more specific, there's Main Street in Acton, right? There's 27. There's Nagog Hill Road, so this is going to be the area that would perhaps get a little pocket of damaging wind out toward Pope Road and Lowell Road for that matter as well. Certainly you've got the cloud-to-ground lightning. It's still pretty significant back up through Littleton. Then on the south end of the storm, it's mostly downpours. So severe thunderstorm warning does continue for the Boston Metro. But I'll tell you what, I think as this comes through, we're probably very likely going to end up seeing really isolated pockets of damage, not being anything that I don't think this is going to pick up in terms of the amount of damage that it may do. Rain just hit in Acton. Okay, very good. Very good. Let's see. Oh, good. Okay, I'm getting info from Matt before I get push notifications from NWS or anybody else. Okay, good. I'm glad. Well, look, in fairness, the NWS issues some of those warnings that you see, but the push notifications that are customized and the one about going up for the live stream, those are all ones that we send out ourselves. So it's a mixture of both. The lightning and the heavy rain alerts, those are all baked right into the actual template of the app, and it's based upon the radar that's near you. It's a little bit tricky sometimes because you might have an area where you're talking about rain that you and I would consider heavy because it's pouring on top of your head. But if it doesn't meet the threshold, you don't necessarily get alerted for it. So if you ever have a situation where you're talking about something where you think you should have been alerted, that's part of the reason why you probably weren't. Look at this, the lightning's ticking back up again, isn't it? Yep, we're starting to get that lightning ticking back up again at Georgetown, I-95, coming out of Groveland, West Newbury. So, yeah, Newburyport, Byfield, you're going to have more in the way of cloud-to-ground lightning strikes that are going to come through in short order here. It's picking up pretty quick around Georgetown. You got cloud-to-ground lightning strikes in Lawrence. That looks like it's right near Mount Vernon, to be honest with you. If I zoom in, yeah, there it is, Mount Vernon Park. Yep, you're just outside of Mount Vernon and down toward Shawsheen Heights. You've had some cloud-to-ground strikes, and again, if they're flashing, they're fresh. Flashing is within the last 5 minutes or so. You got more of those flashing lightning strikes now when you get out around Littleton as well, and there's quite a few of those. Now, here's the thing. You look at these and you say, if you live at Littleton, it feels like there should be a lot more in the way of lightning than what we're showing here, right? Keep in mind, What we're plotting for your cloud-to-ground lightning strikes. Your cloud-to-cloud lightning strikes are going on overhead. They still are plenty loud, and they're still plenty scary. But the ones that obviously that matter for life and safety would be cloud-to-ground strikes, of which there are plenty. And again, what I've been trying to convey here with these storms in Essex County is they've been pulsing. You get them, they get a lull, they pulse again. So not the time to be going outside. If you're watching from Woburn or Lexington or Malden or Peabody, I want to give you an update on what's going on because we've got a pretty large population just outside of Boston to the north and west that's under a severe thunderstorm warning. And understandably, your question would be, so when are we getting this, right? So here you go. These are your towns and times, and you're talking about generally anywhere over the next 25 minutes. So within the next 25 minutes, the Metro West, the suburbs just north and west of Boston, running out to the North Shore, you're going to be in the path of the next storm as it comes through. But again, just keep in mind what I've been mentioning to you, which is that, yeah, you're under severe thunderstorm warning. Not everybody in this area is going to end up seeing damage done. It's going to be clusters. It's going to be pockets that occur. Sometimes we see actually the damage done a little bit more in some of the urban centers, and part of the reason for that is because there's just less space for a tree to fall without actually impacting somebody and causing damage. So you're more inclined to get damage reports from storms that maybe are even low-end storms for severe potential when you get into someplace like Boston, just because there's not a whole lot of real estate where the storm can occur where you don't get something happening that's fallen on either a limb falling down on a car or on a line or something along those lines. So again, pretty heavy area rain though. 495 is a mess right now in terms of the rainfall that's coming down. One of the things I should probably do is bring you back over to the rainfall rate again because I think that was helpful for us the last time. So yeah, look at this. This is rather remarkable in terms of the rainfall rate. You're talking about a pretty broad area. What I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and query at the center of it, but look at this rainfall rate, 6.8 inches an hour at North Acton. This is incredible rain that's coming down right now. Andover's got a gully washer, 5.4 inches per hour on the rainfall rates that are coming down. So this is exceptional stuff. Now you say, well, is it enough for flash flooding? Not necessarily, no. One of the things that I've been talking with you about, there you go, this is 3-hour rainfall rate. That's a lot different, isn't it? That's a lot different when you look at those numbers, right? You're talking about, what, a half an inch of rain? No, that's not the case in all spots. I mean, you get up around Pelham, and it's a different story. Let me kind of slide the view north just a little bit for you, and you get a little bit better feel. There you go. That's 0.9 inches at Pelham. And then when you get out into those areas like southwest New Hampshire, they were hit so hard, or the Route 2 corridor running out through Orange, that's where we picked up more in the way of rain, right? Some of those yellows that you see, that's 2 inches of rain that came down. But you're just not picking that up right now around the suburbs north and west of Boston at I-95 and 495. So you're not talking about a flash flood threat. You're just talking about a ponding of water on the roadway type of thing, and that becoming a little bit more of the issue that you're going to deal with along with the cloud-to-ground lighting in the pockets of isolated wind damage. So again, this severe thunderstorm warning just north and west of Boston continues until 9:15. It's funny, the edge of the storm, that next cluster that developed west of Boston is not going to make it to the edge of the warning before the warning expires. So it'll be an interesting question of whether or not the warning needs to be extended and expanded to the coast or not. At this point, unless we start seeing reports of damage coming back out of that cluster, you have to figure it's been weakening enough that you're probably not going to need a continuation. That's just my guess. If you look just at the last 30 minutes, let me clear the warning out of there, and I'll clear this out of here. You can see there's definitely been a bit of a weakening that's gone on. I wouldn't call it a huge weakening, but it's been a bit of a weakening that's been happening at the center of the storms and kind of the core of those clusters. So it wouldn't surprise me if there's no need to extend that warning farther to the east, but some of that will depend upon if there's any reports of damage that come in a short period of time here. So again, getting back to your chat, because I love to make this a dialogue, not a monologue. Let's see, Deborah, where is this, please? I'm not sure what it is that you're referring to there, but nonetheless, if let me know, and I will be happy to answer that for you. But covering the storms, they continue to come through northeast Massachusetts and come through southeast New Hampshire and southern Maine, for that matter, as well. Fierce lightning, lots of rain now in Lowell. Yeah, you're back into it, aren't you? Absolutely. Here we go. If we zoom in just a little bit more. All right, there you go. These are your lightning strikes. Now those cloud to ground strikes you were dealing with in Lowell are right up over Dracut and Lawrence. They're continuing to move northeast, but there's that cloud to ground strike that you got around South Lowell. That's where it was, down to street level. It was right around Lawrence Street. And we zoom out just a little bit, you can see where it is there. All right, that continues to move off to the east. Wind kicking up now in Woburn. All right, thank you for the live report out of Woburn. I really love that we can kind of talk back and forth in real time. So Woburn, you must be getting right on the outflow boundary of the storm. You can see the edge of the storm is still out around Bedford, but you're likely what's happening here is you're getting a gust of wind that's occurring out ahead of the storm. What it's called is an outflow boundary. I can draw it for you. Here we are at Bedford. You get cool air. Essentially what's happening here is at the center of the storm, you got to understand that storm is real high up, right? So as you go up, it gets colder and colder. So the storm is pulling down cold air from aloft, and it's like an exhaust pipe of the storm, and it blows it out ahead of it. So Woburn has just gotten into that outflow. You've just gotten into that cool air that's descended from tens of thousands of feet up into the sky and has made it down to you, and that's blowing out ahead of the storm. Essentially, you've just crossed into the storm environment. So next up is going to be the rain that's going to begin for you. Sometimes you get an outflow boundary and you don't get any storm at all out of it. Oh, well, okay, there's the new warning. So brand new severe thunderstorm warning has been issued until 10:15 for the city of Boston. And we'll continue to follow it here live so you can see what's going on with that. And let me see if I can, at the same time that I'm with you, we'll go ahead and see if we can get one more push notification out to folks. I never like to do them too late in case folks are not, are tucked in for the evening. But nonetheless, I'd like to make sure that we do a good job of letting folks know that we have an issue going on with the storm warning that's out for Boston. So we're going to go ahead and we'll just issue that to the folks who are in the path of the storm in Boston. We're going to say that we live stream continues as severe storm warning issued for Boston proper. Great, and we'll put the URL as you guys know it by now if you're watching, https livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. We'll say severe storm warning for Boston. Of course, severe thunderstorm warning would probably be a better way to put it, but nonetheless, we want to get it out and get back to you guys very quickly. Live stream continues. Okay, there we go. Great. And we'll put that out. Wonderful. Good. And we'll just put that out for the next hour or so, and we'll publish that. Okay, very good. So folks will probably see that come through in a short period of time. Let's get back to the radar and give you a better feeling for what's going on. I'll take myself off the camera, and if you're just watching us now, we are covering the severe thunderstorm warning that's just been issued for the Boston metropolitan area. That severe thunderstorm warning I mentioned is out until 10:15. Now, here's the thing that I want to get across, okay? This storm is not going to produce widespread damage. Again, the storm is not going to produce widespread damage. It will produce perhaps some pockets of isolated damage. Why do I say that? Because we've seen it breaking into clusters. And essentially what's going to happen is you're going to see the worst of it happening in areas where you see some of those darkest red colors. So right now at Billerica would be one of those areas that would be concerned about. Towns and Times, because if you're just watching now in Boston, let me redo that. Towns and Times, if you're just watching in Boston, we'll give you an idea for where this thing is headed. It is moving off to the east-northeast. It's moving at about 40 miles per hour. And so here are the towns and times and when they're expected to be arriving. I'll move it to the side so you can see both the storm and the towns and times there as well. All right, so essentially you say, wait a minute, Boston's in a severe thunderstorm warning, but I don't see Boston indicated in the path of that storm. Not that particular segment of the storm, but you'll notice that we do have an extension that goes down to Sudbury. There's also an extension that goes underneath the towns and times I'll show you in a minute that runs farther to the south and west down along 495 and 290. That's all moving to the east as well. All right, so that's why I say we're likely going to end up getting the storms into Boston. But the reason that I'm saying I don't expect there to be widespread damage done with these storms is because we're talking about a setup here where if I wipe away the towns and times for you, what you're looking at essentially in this severe thunderstorm warned area, there are only a few spots that seem like they're suspect for causing some damage. One is in that heavier cell around Billerica. The other one is just coming into Burlington right now. And then perhaps you've got a couple of spots from Concord to Lincoln to Sudbury, all of which are moving off to the east right now. All right, so one of the things that I look at in here is I say, all right, can we get around the Billerica stretch? And when we get around the Billerica stretch, as that comes into Wilmington, are we going to be able to get a localized downburst wind to the point that we could see at least what may end up being a pocket of damage done? I think that's probably what you're talking about here. You're not talking about a big, widespread area of damage done. You know how I know that? I know that not only because of the lack of storm reports coming back behind this thing, but I also know that because of your reports. You're sharing them with me right now, and I really appreciate that at livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. And I'm taking a look at the chat now. Let's see what we have that's new. Was in upstate New York last week with all the bad storms. Okay. Oh, good. We kept you informed out there. Good. Just received your latest alert. Good. Wind kicking up in Woburn. Right. Okay. Very good. But you'll notice that I'm not getting many of you reporting that you've got any type of damage that's actually going on right now. So that tells me that we likely have taken the worst of these storms and started to weaken them a bit. We do have a brand new special marine warning that's been issued for Boston Harbor, running up to Gloucester and Gloucester Harbor and everyone in between. All right, this special marine warning is as the storms start to draw in on top of the area. It's out until 10:15. Look, I'd say the biggest thing is if you have family or friends that are out on the boat, they love to go out in the evening, and they're out around Boston Harbor right now, or they're out around Nahant or Winthrop, or they're anywhere up along the coastline through Salem Harbor. Just give them a ring. Just let them know if they can get back in. It'd be a real good idea because there is quite a bit of cloud to ground lightning that's coming in from the west with this thing. So if you're just watching us right now, it's good to have you with us. Let's see, we've got lightning starting up again in Methuen. Thank you very much. If you're just joining, one of the things that I explained a short time ago is I've got the live lightning on here for you. So you actually are seeing, and I'll put myself back on screen for a second, you actually are seeing what we're talking about with regard to live lightning strikes that are coming down with the white strikes that you see. If it's a yellow strike, it just shows it was a little bit stronger lightning that came down. But the ones that are flashing are within the last 5 minutes. So if you see that flashing lightning, that's indicating to you that it's been in the last 5 minutes we've had a cloud to ground strike. I'm only plotting cloud to ground strikes because cloud to cloud is scary. It makes a lot of noise. It lights up the sky. It puts on a show. But it's not threatening to life and property in the same way cloud to ground strikes are. Now, look, the bottom line is that at any point, you can get a cloud to ground strike if there's any amount of lightning being produced. So I don't mean to say that there's ever a storm that's a safe one necessarily to be outside in. But what I do mean to say is that when I look at an uptick in cloud to ground lightning strikes, that's where I start to say, all right, a storm is starting to strengthen just a little bit. You can see the flashes by Waverly Road and by Route 114 and 495. So this has been one of the spots that we've seen cloud to ground lightning strikes. That's in North Andover. We've got what have been lightning strikes outside of the 5-minute window, so they're not flashing any longer at Lawrence. Just had a fresh one. Look at that. When you get up around Salem, New Hampshire, even though the rain isn't very hard for you anymore, you've still had cloud to ground lightning strikes. You say, well, what about the Boston area? We're underneath a severe thunderstorm warning. Actually, believe it or not, there's not a ton of cloud to ground lightning anymore with this storm. So you can see that in Billerica, in Tewksbury, in Carlisle, we've had some cloud to ground strikes. But this storm, as it moves east, it's been losing some of its cloud to ground lightning, which is a good thing. It also is no longer, earlier we had a tornado warning that was issued out in central Massachusetts. This is no longer a storm that we're worried about that happening with, and I can prove it to you. One thing that we can do is we can look together at the storm relative velocity. What I'm doing here is I'm looking inside the storm and I'm adjusting for the storm motion. So if I see green and red right next to each other, that would tell me that there's air going in opposite directions right next to each other, right? That would be a possible tornado developing. You don't see that here. You say, well, I think I do. I think I see some areas that are red and green close to each other by Bolton. Yeah, none of that is tight. None of that is a real strong rotation. None of that is what we'd be worried about with this. So instead, what we're actually looking at is straight line wind. And so you start to see, if I go back over to the regular radar, it's interesting. Look at this. You start to see indications of gusty wind from Newton to Needham to Dover. You're going to notice that wind kick up. Now, I don't think it's going to be damaging for you, but you're going to notice it kick up. But if I go back over to the kind of traditional radar, what's interesting is, watch this. You ready? There's no rain there. That's the outflow boundary that I was telling you about earlier. If you're just joining us, we were talking about the construct and the dynamic of a storm and the fact that you get this exhaust pipe of the storm. The storm developed tens of thousands of feet up. It grabs cool air and it pushes it out from the center. So right now at Dover and Sherborne and Needham and Newton, you just got this puff of cool wind that came through. And it was enough to sit up and take notice, right? But it's not storming. That is the exhaust pipe of the storm. So what's happening here essentially is the storm itself, the storm core itself, out of Hudson, out of Woburn, out of Lexington, that's moving off to the east, all right? That's continuing to move off to the east through Lynn next. But it's not necessarily moving south, at least not at the moment. There are other storms that are back off to the west that you'd watch, for example, from Holden to New Braintree, and we'll see whether those can develop down to the south and come across the Mass Turnpike or not. But for now, I think that really the kind of the whole show here is when you get around someplace like Woburn and Burlington and Wilmington, and it's going to be in the suburbs north of Boston. So you say, well, why then is there a severe thunderstorm warning that's out for Boston? A couple of reasons. One, if you see any southward extension to the storm, well, then you have the storm that comes in on top of Boston. That's not impossible that happens. Another thing, I mentioned this earlier, but if you're just joining us now from the immediate Boston metro, a lot of times we'll get these storms that are borderline severe. Maybe earlier they had caused damage. They stopped producing that much in the way of damage reports. They come into someplace like a Cambridge, like an Arlington, like a Somerville, like a Boston, and there's less real estate to play with. There's less place for a tree to come down or a limb to come down even without damaging something along the way, right? So as a result, sometimes you get a little bit easier trigger on the severe thunderstorms when they start to come in, just because if damage were to be done and no warning was out, the concern there is, was that somewhat negligent, right? So sometimes you're going to get those warnings. In this particular instance, the city of Boston proper is going to get missed mostly by that first round. You've got a shower over Somerville right now. But I would say what you'd be looking at next, the chance for Boston is going to be with this stuff that's out by Maynard and Marlborough. And if I bring that off to the east and I put it at its current speed of about 40 miles per hour or so, then it would be coming probably through the Boston area sometime over the course of the next 40 minutes or so. And that's what we'd be watching. But nonetheless, that's the explanation on what we're dealing with there. Here's some fresh cloud-to-ground lightning strikes that are occurring up by Tewksbury and Route 38. The flashing ones within the last 5 minutes, Lowell Junction down to East Billerica. You've had some fresh cloud-to-ground lightning strikes. And again, that's really the area from Chelmsford down to Woburn where we might find a couple of pockets of damaging wind that would be done. If you're watching us from southern New Hampshire or northern Essex County, there's no longer any warnings that are in effect for you. We do still have, when you get up around southern Maine, we've got one area that we've been watching where we've had right now at least a severe thunderstorm warning out till 9:45 because we've been getting blasted pretty good around Portland with the storms coming through. But again, that too has really been what has been more scattered damage than anything rather than a widespread swath. The storms are over now when you get around Manchester and Candia and Deerfield. The range is coming to a close at Raymond. Haverhill, it's still pouring. You've still got cloud-to-ground lightning, so while the damaging aspects of the storm are over for you, the cloud-to-ground lightning strikes are not. The damaging aspects are pretty much done around Newburyport and Plum Island. But if you're at Gloucester, notice you're just starting to get in on the front leading edge to these storms now. So if we draw that leading edge out and we say, all right, when's it getting here? Let's do it. We'll take it down to Malden. We'll bring it off to the east. We'll bring it at its speed, and we'll take it in Gloucester's about 9:41. 9:41 an arrival time for you as it continues to move off to the east. But Cape Ann, you're going to get a significantly weakened version of the storm by the time it arrives, by the way things look right now. Let's go ahead and clear those towns and times for you so we can get back to the radar. And again, at this point, there's kind of one game in town, aside from the special marine warning, and we do hear from a lot of you that watch us streaming out on your boat, and we appreciate that, and I hope we take good care of you. The one game in town is a severe thunderstorm warning. It's out till 10:15, and that extends all the way out into Boston. And you can see that right now, most of that action, though, is north of the city, and most of that action is likely to stay north of the city. Let me take this time to take a look at some of your chat feedback that you've been sending in. The chat is live right now on YouTube. It's live at Twitch. And we've embedded a chat at livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. I make sure to follow all of those because this is not supposed to be a monologue. The whole idea of doing this digital first experiment with 1 degree outside is to make this a dialogue. So let me continue to do that, and let me see what you've had to say so far. Do you think we'll see anything in Somerville and Medford? Somerville, look at this. What'd you get, a sprinkle? They came through, and there it goes. You'll get something out of it likely because you can see there are downpours out by Stowe and Maynard that need to move in. That's going to take some time. The only thing you would want to watch for, I would want to watch for and be careful for, is when you get on the southern edge of that storm, is there any southward expansion going on whatsoever? What I think I'll do here is I'll just take it back over the last 15 minutes and play things through. Nope. Doesn't look to be, does there? In fact, if anything, there's a southward contraction, right? We start to see the southern end dying as this storm continues to move east. So we'll watch that stuff out by Stowe, but no immediate signal whatsoever that we're talking about what may be a storm moving south. I may be able to actually put that into 1 minute increments too and see a really smooth loop. Let's see if we can do that. Yeah, look at this. This shows it a little bit better for you. But again, no sign that storm is expanding southward right now. I'll zoom it out a little bit more so that those of you who are just joining us get a nice clear view of what's going on with the storms. Basically, from the Mass Turnpike, Sterling's getting another one. What's this, your fifth round in Sterling so far, I think? What other feedback do we have from you here on the chat? Okay, strong winds in Arlington. So you just got that blast. Oh, looks like we have just canceled, as best I can tell. Let me go ahead and make sure I don't speak too soon. I believe we've just canceled the severe thunderstorm warning for Boston. Yep. So a short time after being issued, the severe thunderstorm warning has been canceled for Boston, and it's been allowed to come down early. So there's some good news for you there. But I was in the middle of answering your questions. I want to do that. Okay, power outages and tree limbs down in the section of Lowell bordering Dracut. Thank you very much for the update there. Very much appreciate that. Those strong winds in Arlington, I was starting to tell you, are just as you're starting to get one of these lobes that's kind of coming through, right? If I zoom in a little bit more, there we go. We just had a shower come by, but this is what I was talking about with that outflow, that kind of exhaust pipe of the storm that blows the cold air out from the center of the storm down from tens of thousands of feet up. That's what you got in Arlington. Lightning looking north of Natick now. Lightning and thunder in Lawrence now. Very good. Thank you for the updates, both of you. Makes sense looking north from Natick. You're seeing that big line. It's lined up west to east. And in Lawrence, yeah, you've still got it. As a matter of fact, again, I've got all of the cloud-to-ground lightning strikes on here, but anything that's flashing is where it's been in the last 5 minutes. So Tewksbury's been getting a lot of lightning this evening. You continue to right now. Thanks for keeping us updated there. Let's see. We've got another round of storms tomorrow in that break with the break in the community. Yes. You're going to get another round of storms tomorrow. Can I easily? I don't think I can easily pull up with the. I'm in our severe weather setup now. I was hoping that I could easily pull up our exclusive proprietary guidance that we've built, because I think that would be really cool to show you. But one thing that I can do is I think I've got loaded up in here. Do I have? I've got a 6-hour loop. Let's see. This is our 6-hour radar loop. Yeah, that's not going to take you out nearly far enough. That's too bad. Well, what I was going to do is show you that, yeah, tomorrow we're going to fire it up again. You know what you should do, honestly? If you go to 1degreeoutside.com, you'll see I posted the Evening Essentials video and I posted the Insights video earlier today. Do the Insights. The Insights when I get into the details with that and how we think it's going to break down with the cold front that comes in. So just go to 1degreeoutside.com at the homepage, click on the Insights video. You'll be able to see it there. Thanks for being live from North Chelmsford. Thank you, North Chelmsford. I appreciate you very much. What's up with the storm in Hartford? Let's do it. Zoom the view out a little bit. There it is. Came out of Hartford County. Severe thunderstorm warning just issued now in eastern Connecticut, right? So that's coming in through Tolland and headed toward Ashford. Great to hear from you. We don't hear from folks in Connecticut very often, so I'm thrilled that you're on board. And we'll give you some love, absolutely. So center of the storm is going to continue to move out toward Ashford and Putnam, right? What's going on in terms of the inside of the storm? Are you getting any type of rotation that you need to be worried about? At this point, no, not really. You've got some very broad scale rotation trying to develop in Coventry, but nothing that stands out as being rotational. So this is a straight line storm. Wow, but it's got a good gust with it. Look what just came east of Stores right now, huh? Let's go ahead and probe that one. This is 67 miles an hour just east of Stores. Coventry, 66 miles an hour. This is radar estimated. You say, oh, it just dropped. No, it just shifted east. Here, watch, I'll show you. We clear that out. We get back in it again. 69 miles an hour. So the concern, here would be for some at least kind of pockets of damaging wind that comes through. Ashford looks to be in line. Basically, Ashford down to Chaplin would be the next round that would get hit by this. You're right on the front edge, coming along 44 and straddling either side of 44. Zoom in a little bit more for you. And essentially, Mount Hope is going to be next. Rawson is next. There's Pumpkin Hill Road. So you're going to get a blast of wind that will likely cause some pockets of damage from Pumpkin Hill Road running up to North Road and across Route 44, the Hartford Turnpike. So that'll be the next one that you'll be watching for there. So thanks for asking about that. I'm really glad you did. And now that I know you're on, we'll make sure that from time to time we go back to you. Look at the rash of storm reports that have just come in. If you were watching earlier, I told you sometimes it takes a while to get the damage reports to trickle in. Here we go. This is out of Pelham, New Hampshire. Wires down in the roadway. All right, that's just one example. Hold on. Here we go. Let's take this to Plastow. Tree down, road closed. All right. Let's go farther off to the north here. You've got more in the way of damage reports that are coming in. This one out of Atkinson. Tree down, one lane open on Route 121. And then you can see that path of damage. I won't do every one, but you can see the path of damage that goes out along Route 2. And then southern New Hampshire got hit hard by a couple of storms. It had some amount of rotation with them. But really, we think a lot of that was probably straight line wind, TBD, and some of these tighter clusters of damage that were done. But at the request of one of our folks that was on earlier, we went back and looked for any signs of rotation and didn't find any anyhow. But nonetheless, that's what we were watching in southern New Hampshire earlier. Let's see, what's it looking like in Maryland? Really? You're watching in Maryland? Is that true? All right, hold on, we'll get there. Outflow boundary just took down a tree and broke a pole in Waltham. Really, Matthew? Unbelievable. Oh, in Waltham. Well, let's get zoomed in a little bit more here to Waltham. All right. Here we go. All right, Weston. Here we go. Waltham. That's amazing. That's incredible. If the outflow boundary did that, that is really incredible if that's the case. Wow. Well, Matthew, thanks for letting me know, and thanks for the report there. And again, just like I mentioned earlier, the outflow boundary is kind of the exhaust pipe of the storm. So it's that's impressive. That's because that was without a storm ongoing right on top of Waltham. Can the app announce live broadcast like it does for a station alert with words? I have alert set, but my phone was making so much noise. For the live stream, for those of you that were on earlier, you probably, or you did see, I was actually just literally typing the alert here as I was sending it out. But let me look into that, okay? I'll look into that and see if we can do something to enhance that a little bit more. Lightning and heavy rain in Wakefield right now. Thank you very much. Appreciate the report there. Let's shift the view north, and you can see for yourself. When you get anywhere north of Boston, you are very much into the heavy rain that's coming through. But again, the severe thunderstorm warnings have all been allowed to expire or been canceled. That includes for Boston, the exception being the storm that is in eastern Connecticut. A lot of thunder and lightning with it over Route 74. Ashford about to take a direct hit. It's going to straddle 44 either side, and it's going to cause some pockets of wind damage on the way by as it comes through. So that'll do some damage for you as it comes by as well. There's still a lot of you who are here on the live stream, and I appreciate you being here. I invite you not only to share your reports, but also if you have any questions about either the forecast or where we're at right now with regard to the storms, feel free to ask it. Again, livestream.onedegreeoutside.com. We've got a chat built in there. Some of you may be watching the chat live on YouTube and on Twitch for that matter as well. All right, so with that, we'll see if there's anybody else who wants to chime in. And I think we're probably, at this point, with the damage kind of subsiding, the one warning that's left in Connecticut, I think we're probably good to be able to stand down. So I would say speak now or forever hold your peace with regard to any questions you might have that you wanted to ask before I sign off. But I think we're good. We might be doing this again tomorrow. I always try to get the alert out on the app that there's a live stream. But those of you who were watching earlier saw I'm literally doing it while I'm doing this, right? So if there's ever something real big, you can always just come and check at livestream.onedegreeoutside.com, or as soon as I go live, I've actually got it set up. Danielle and I have configured this so it does go out on X right away. So if you follow 1 Degree Outside, the number 1 Degree Outside on X, it's instant and it's automatic. YouTube and Twitch, same deal, goes out automatically. Facebook, we're going to work to try and get that implementation figured in. And the app, we're going to have to figure that part out a little bit as well. But for that, I think that we've been able to cover just about everybody's questions. I appreciate everybody checking in. Oh, yeah, what about Maryland? Sorry, hold on. Sorry, Maryland. Sorry, hold on. Maryland. I love it. You surprised me. I never expected you to be on in Maryland. So I'm thrilled you are, and I'll take good care of you. All right, I don't know if you're around Baltimore or not, but here you go. This is your storm. You've got your severe thunderstorm warning that's out for Baltimore, and this storm is continuing to move to the east. What are we doing with this storm? That's a slow mover. It's producing an awful lot of cloud-to-ground lightning, and this one also is going to be one of those pockets of wind damage storm. This is not going to be a widespread wind damage storm. From Columbia to North Laurel and along Route 32 is going to be one of the areas that stands out over Arrowhead as being a spot that could produce some damage. That's going to head right into Elk Ridge and along 195. So you'll keep an eye on that. All right, if you have our app down in Maryland, you'll be able to follow it there. And this is actually one of the nastier storms, right? When you get up around Delaware, this is where we've got a real kind of nasty storm with a lot of cloud-to-ground lightning. Look at the amount of lightning with this as it moves off to the east toward Pennsville, right? That's going to be one that'll cause some pockets of damage with it as well. Oh, look, it wants to get the Townsend Times on there. I like that. Tabernacle, Route 206, South Jersey, in come the storms. Jersey Turnpike will be dealing with those before long. All right, I think with that, let's see. Did I take care of everybody now? All right. Hamilton. All right, Hamilton. All right, Salem's getting hit now. All right, Hamilton. Stand by, Hamilton. Let's get you going on. Come back in. Northeast Massachusetts. Here you are, Hamilton. You're right on the edge. Don't go out there right now. All right, you're in a break, but look at that. Literally seconds away before the downpours get on top of you. There's not a lot of lightning with it that's cloud to ground. There is a decent amount of cloud to cloud. There shouldn't be any damaging wind left with it anymore. If there was going to be, actually, interestingly, Hamilton, it would be right around the north side of town, coming across 1A, because it would be coming out of that heavier core that you see that's over Topsfield. That's going to move off due east. So when you get on the north side of Hamilton up 1A toward 133, that would be the spot that you might get the gustiest winds that blow on through. Gloucester, you're still waiting. Talk about the time just getting delayed again and again and again at Gloucester, right? My goodness. But it is still coming at you. It's coming out 128 right now, at least, out by Sawyer Road. So it's coming in. Great coverage. Thank you very much, John. Very much appreciate it. Thanks for chiming in. Appreciate that. And I think we've got you covered. Follow the radar on the app. If you're on the radar tab, I always suggest past plus future. Shows you where the storms have been, where they are, and where they're going. But you see, here's the thing. This is a little late night insight for you if you're watching. The reason I suggest it is because sometimes the future is wrong. Sometimes it's a computer model that fuels it. But at least if you do past plus future, you can see where the storms have been and where they are, and you can tell right away if it's wrong, and you can kind of see where the storms are going to be going next. So that's one of the reasons that I always make sure to mention that. You got to know your weaknesses, and you got to make sure you help people work around them, right? All right, that's where we are. Good, I'm glad. Oh, Ken, thank you very much. Good, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad you like it. Look, we may be doing this again tomorrow, depending on how things unfold. Either way, follow us on social media, because when we can't get up with a live stream, which sometimes we can't get up with a live stream, we try to make sure that we're getting the updates out on social media, especially on X, Facebook to a large extent as well. Instagram, we get all of our videos out on there. We do the higher end storms. We try and get out on Instagram at the same time. All right, guys, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe out there, and thank you for checking in at onedegreeoutside.com. Don't forget, another update coming in the morning. We do the videos 3 times a day. You always find the link.